BioWare, EA, and Dragon Age stand accused of manipulating the reviews for Dragon Age The Veilguard, which comes out just a day from now on Halloween. I wrote this up over at thatparkplace.com, which you can find a link in the description below. You can also find a link to become a member of the channel and help support me in exposing woke ideology and working to eradicate it from society. The bane that it is, we must get rid of this ideology. We must rebuke it, say no to it. So there are lots of things happening. The latest is former World of Warcraft team lead Mark Kern accusing BioWare of astroturfing reviews for the upcoming Dragon Age The Veilguard game. But before we get to his accusations, I do want to bring up some accusations that were made by YouTuber F Extra Life, who accused BioWare of attempting to manipulate reviews by not handing out review codes to creators critical of the game. F Extra Life observed in a recent YouTube upload that a number of potential players expressed they would wait for reviews before they decided to purchase this game. He saw that by looking at the comments on his videos, by looking at the comments on a lot of the videos that were uploaded by BioWare to the Dragon Age YouTube channel, looking at IGN, etc. And there are lots of people that were saying that they were going to be waiting to purchase this game, waiting for reviews to purchase the game. He then noted that EA likely observed this too, EA being the parent company of BioWare, and said EA's marketing team probably saw this and decided that they needed to make the reviews as positive as possible, trying to exclude those that might give the game a 7 or an 8, while also reaching out, finding press and content creators that would maybe give the game a 9 or above. And to that point, we actually did see an individual who claimed to be non-binary in order to get a review code, which BioWare and EA did give her a review code, and then she absolutely torched the game after about 3.5 hours of play. Covered that in a previous video, but did indeed dupe BioWare and EA into thinking that she was quote-unquote non-binary, which they probably thought would then allow them to get a positive review score. Unfortunately for them, she lied to them, which I don't think you should be lying, but I do appreciate the information she was able to provide by doing so. But I don't think you should be lying. I do not think the ends justify the means there. Anyways, regardless, F Extra Life continues saying, just think about this for a second. If you're on the EA end and you're trying to manipulate review scores because you want high review scores, what are you going to do? You're going to research press and content creators and what they usually give to games score-wise to give you a general idea of how they're going to review your game. And a lot of that you can see on Metacritic, especially the written outlets, right? Those are all on Metacritic, and even YouTubers now are on Metacritic for the most part. So you can kind of see what people are giving reviews and what their kind of general gist is. So if there's people who are constantly giving 9s and 10s, you're likely going to give them a review score or a review code. And clearly, if they think that you are a part of their alphabet team, they're going to give you review codes as well because they think you're going to review that positively just because of that identity, which I think is telling too, right? Anyways, after noting how F Extra Life never gives 9s or 10s, he said this: you're about to get a bunch of reviews that have been curated by the publisher for their likelihood of being extremely positive in an attempt to manipulate your view of Dragon Age The Veilguard. They want you to think there is a universal consensus that the game is amazing, thereby convincing you that you should try it, but also influencing future review scores, as it's difficult to be the outlier. If you've ever done a review for a game or something, you'll realize that if you're the only one giving a high review when everyone else is giving it a low review score, it's difficult. Or if you're the only one giving it a low review score and everyone else is giving it a high review score, it's a very difficult position to be in. There's actually psychological studies that were conducted like back in the 70s where they literally had individuals lie about what they were seeing in front of their face. And the one person that they were basically testing to see if he would go along with the lie or if he would stick to the truth. In most cases, the individual would kind of basically respond to the rest of the individuals in the room and would go along with the lie rather than obviously noting what the truth is. I mean, it's absolutely wild if you watch some of that stuff. I mean, they would at one point, there's one guy who literally says like, no, this line is clearly longer. It's that one. And then everyone else says, no, it's the other ones, which were obviously shorter. And the guy eventually changes his mind by the time everyone else is done because he's just like, he's just like probably thinking to himself, like, I have to be wrong. Everyone else is saying this, but he was indeed correct. And they were literally being told to lie. So there's actual studies that show that this is indeed the case. And a lot of people do indeed act this way. They will abandon the truth in order to go along with what everyone else is saying the truth is, even though it is not the truth. FX Life continues saying, so if you see a bunch of positive review scores come out today, think about all the people that are going to be playing afterward and how much pressure they're going to feel to give the game slightly better scores. Or a slightly better score than they would have given it just to avoid maybe some undue pressure. And sometimes that doesn't even happen consciously. It's just done subconsciously. Next, he noted, I want to be very clear here that I don't think the press and creators publishing their videos early are going to be lying. I disagree. I think there are definitely people that will be doing that. And that's not to say that everyone will be doing it, but I do think that a lot of times these people do indeed lie in order to push the agenda. Because again, as with Bioware, they're not really trying to sell a video game that offers fantasy, entertainment, constellation, etc. All the things that you expect from a video game. They're literally trying to sell you gender ideology now. That is what they are doing. And obviously, I think a lot of people in the press, and I do think a lot of YouTube creators as well, are indeed trying to sell that. They are not trying to actually provide a solid opinion on whether or not the game is a good quality game or not. So I definitely think they will be lying. I disagree with FX Life. I know he's just trying to kind of be cautious there, but I think it's safe to say that there will be some people that will lie. Now, that's not to say everyone will, but I do think there are people that will lie. Anyways, he goes on, these reviewers have been screened to maximize the chances that you're seeing positive reviews. There will probably be some exceptions, of course. I don't think everyone's going to give the game a positive review, but EA is banking that those are few and far between in an attempt to keep the aggregate score of the game high. I don't think that is unheard of, right? We have some information from the movie side of things back in, like, I don't know, I covered this like way long time ago when I was still working at Bounding Into Comics, but we'll get to that. So after that, we had Mark Kern accuse them of astroturfing, and he presented these two posts here from the game's creative director, John Epler, that he posted on Blue Sky as part of his evidence. And Epler wrote this. So 5 years ago, when I first rejoined the project as narrative director after a hiatus on Anthem, I was asked my goals for the project. And one of the ones I put was, I want to see the phrase, a triumphant return to form for BioWare in at least one review. And we don't really need to read the second post because it's that last line right there, or that middle line right there, because he goes on and says, excited to finally mark that goal done. But it's this part here, a triumphant return to form, or a return to form is what we need to pay attention to, because Kern shared all of these screenshots here. Let's take, as you can see here, he's shared these screenshots where, what do they say? Return to form, GameSpot, return to form, Rolling Stone, return to form, Digital Trends, return to form, Games Radar, return to RPG form, PSU, return to form. I mean, and then he shared a screenshot of Metacritic stuff, Digital Trends, return to form, PlayStation Universe, which we just went, return to form, Checkpoint Gaming, return to form, IGN Portugal, return to form, Pure Xbox, return to form. They are all using that line, return to form. And that is the line that John Epler wanted to see in all of the reviews. So Grums commented and says, we need to talk about captured gaming journalism and how corrupt it's become. Dragon Age Veilguard is astroturfing articles and reviews now, parroting the lead narrative designer of the game. Look at these reviews and articles that all repeat the same phrase and ask yourself what is going on. This is too coincidental that everyone is using the same terminology that the creative director for the game is using. It's too coincidental for me. Clearly organized. And even if it isn't organized, they clearly got the memo that, like, hey, we need to write what this guy is saying about the game. And my guess is that this was actually instructions handed out by Bioware. And we know that these companies do indeed hand out these instructions. We can go back and look at what was happening with Game Science and Black Myth Wukong, right? There was that whole you cannot talk about feminism, etc. All of that stuff. They had all of these things that you couldn't talk about when you were talking about your review. So the idea that these companies don't put this stuff in there, it's not absurd. It happens. We have evidence of this, right? We have the Game Science stuff just from earlier this year. And it wasn't just Mark Kern who's observing this, right? YouTuber Smash JT shared a similar screenshot, or I think it might be the same screenshot with the Digital Trends, PlayStation Universe, etc. And he says, "Have had a bunch of folks share this image of Metacritic's Dragon Age: The Veilguard reviews with me, and anyone notice anything strange?" Obviously highlighting the return to form language. And then we also had Hypnotic. He says, "Gaming journalists are a joke. The reviews seem to either all be written by AI or they simply coordinate together to write the same narrative about a game that they need to be a commercial success, even if it ends up most likely being a financial failure. A return to form for BioWare. You can make your character trans officially in the story. The desperation is palpitating. You can smell it in the air." And so obviously, if we go over here, he's pointing out that some of these other companies were also writing, you can declare your character trans with Kotaku, The Gamer. I'm not sure what this one is, Gamers Live. I'm not familiar with them. But so that is happening as well as with the return to form option. So this isn't unheard of, right? We've kind of seen a lot of this stuff. We actually saw this with Ubisoft and Star Wars Outlaws as well, not just with Game Science and Black Myth Wukong. We had this German YouTube channel, Piet Smith, actually admit that a third-party agency had to approve its Star Wars Outlaws preview video. They posted this message on YouTube. I used DeepL to translate it. And it says, "I completely understand the arguments that were made here, and that was not correct. I had the opportunity to play the game for 4 hours, and it was edited into over an hour of video. As part of the review process, the entire video was thrown back to us, and an intermediate agency, not Ubisoft, asked for a lot of changes." Well, clearly that intermediate agency is working for Ubisoft, so I don't know why you're trying to say that Ubisoft was not involved. They clearly were involved. They were the ones dictating what the intermediary agency was telling you. I mean, that's common sense here. Let's not try to beat around the bush. Asked for a lot of changes, especially to the wording at the beginning. But since I personally thought the game was really cool, I didn't see that as a big problem. This was a huge miscalculation. So just to provide some context, he was basically telling people to pre-order the game at the very beginning of this video. And this is a channel that basically says don't pre-order all the time. So it was kind of weird that they were telling people to pre-order now. And now he admits that it was literally Ubisoft through this intermediary agency that was requiring that language for just a preview. For a video of a preview, not just a review, which they're literally just marketing video, right, for Ubisoft and Star Wars Outlaws. So then they went on and said, "Sorry, you don't have to pre-order a game. Of course, you can buy whatever you like with your money. I absolutely enjoyed the version I was shown. The process behind it was for the butt, and I'm sorry that we didn't print more against it, but let ourselves be beaten wide open. Big sorry for that." So again, we see these companies do this, right? We had this just earlier this year with Ubisoft. And then this one here is from Sci-Fi Wire. This was, I don't know, this is probably a little bit over half a decade ago. But we had Sci-Fi Wire's Danny Roth literally admit to making positive reviews for films in order to maintain access with companies like Disney. So people do indeed do this stuff, right? They literally lie to maintain access to these companies. So F Extra Life saying that he doesn't think that they're being honest, that's absolutely not true. We literally have these people have told us that they will lie to maintain access. And he literally said this. Here's the actual reality. Here's where we actually are in the industry. If you want to talk about, quote, access media, every single person that wants to have access to things early, that wants to get access to things so that traffic is drawn to their site will, on occasion, everybody at this podcast, everybody in our industry occasionally has to play softball, occasionally has to look the other way a little bit. Everybody has to do it in the sense that I hated a movie, but I won't say that I hated a movie, or an actor behaved this sort of way, and you don't want to put it out there that happened. So he's literally saying he lied about a movie that he hated in order to maintain access. And then his co-host, Karama Horn, she chimed in and said, "Right, because you might not get the next review." And then Roth continued saying, "To some degree, everybody in our industry that is part of this quote unquote access media has to decide which battles they want to pick, which of the ones where my voice is the one that has to get said." So these people literally admit that they have no integrity, that they are willing to lie to maintain access to these large corporations. And they did this like years ago. This was Data Racer posted this in 2019. That was 5 years ago. So that's what they do. That is what they do. We have all of this evidence. I do not think it is surprising that EA and BioWare are doing this. I think it's just patently obvious that they are doing this. They are clearly trying to manipulate these reviews. And I think that is a sign of desperation. It is a sign that they are not confident in their game, that they feel like they have to manipulate these reviews. and they're trying to basically curate who's reviewing the game in order to get those positive reviews. And I just don't think that is the sign of a company that is confident in their game. And they likely know that this game is a dud, but they're going to try to get as much milk as they can out of it before people realize that it is spoiled. They're going to try and sell as much spoiled milk as they possibly can before people realize that it is indeed spoiled. And I think that's what you're going to see here. I expect this game to probably do around Star Wars Outlaws levels. It will have softer than expected sales, as Ubisoft likes to say, but it'll probably do around 1 million and just off of the BioWare Dragon Age name. But once people realize what it is, they will quickly stop playing this game, and the sales will dry up moving forward. I think that's what we've kind of seen with Star Wars Outlaws. Basically sold 1 million copies in maybe its first couple of days, really didn't do anything in the next month. And we really haven't seen any kind of movement on that game at all. It's completely fallen off all of the charts. And I think we're going to see something similar here with Dragon Age, the Veilguard. I'm really going to be paying attention, comparing it to Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League. Obviously, we know that game did around a peak 13,000 on Steam, and then it just absolutely fell off a cliff in the preceding month after it was released throughout the month of February. So I'm going to be really paying close attention to that number there. Obviously, Suicide Squad, a little bit of a different game, team-based game that requires you to be kind of playing online with other people, whereas Dragon Age is a single-player game. But I still think we can kind of do some comparison there between the two games, especially at the very beginning and where that peak concurrent will get to. But let me know what you guys make of what EA, BioWare are doing here with these Dragon Age reviews. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, and to always, always speak the truth.